Sometimes great architecture isn't about creating more. It's about putting the right space in the right place. Singapore is one of the most densely populated cities in the world. And yet, today we're stepping into a house that feels like a private resort in the middle of a typical landed housing area. Not because it's hidden away in nature, but because it completely rethinks where life in a home should actually happen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Villa Urbano by HYLA Architects, and I think this might be one of the smartest landed homes we've ever featured on this channel. My name is Alex Lee and I am from Design Seeds. Before we begin, a friendly reminder, if you've not clicked on the subscribe button yet, do it now and stay in the loop for more compelling design and architecture related contents. At first glance, Villa Urbano doesn't ask for your attention. Just a quiet composition of concrete, timber, and greenery that gives very little away from the street.
Hi, I'm Nicholas, a director at HYLA Architects, and this is Villa Urbano. So we call this project Villa Urbano because it is our attempt to create a private retreat, like a resort villa, but right in the heart of urban Singapore.
One thing I appreciate immediately is that this house doesn't reveal itself all at once. The entrance is deliberately darker, the foyer tighter. A moment of compression that feels intentional, like a held breath. As you ascend the staircase, that feeling begins to change. Each step builds anticipation, carefully unfolding the experience. This is architecture as choreography. The sequence of space is just as important as the spaces themselves. And then you arrive. The home suddenly opens into a generous living and dining area, framed by the swimming pool and layers of lush greenery. After the quiet restraint of the entrance, the contrast is striking. The house expands, light pours in, and almost instinctively, you'll find yourself taking a deeper breath.
The house is about 8,000 square feet on a lot of 5,007. The site is a fairly typical 40-meter deep plot flanked by 3 neighbours, but atypically, there's a large canal in the front with 2 layers of roadside trees. So that formed the starting point to create a front-facing house.
Most landed homes follow a predictable formula with the living and dining areas downstairs. But Villa Urbano, however, asks a very different question. What if the best part of the house wasn't on the ground floor? That single decision completely changes how this home is experienced. The architecture of the home itself is incredibly restrained as reverse bay windows lined with planters create interesting composition. This is the heart of Villa Urbano. By moving the living room to the second floor, suddenly the entire perspective changes. Instead of looking into neighboring houses, you're looking across the canal and at the sky.
So the biggest challenge was how to make the house feel open and expansive, while yet remaining private from its neighbours. So we introduced a perforated concrete shell interspersed with plants to shield the 3 sides, and the front is totally open, but it is protected with this large overhang that you see here.
The space immediately feels lighter, more open but more private at the same time.
We actually planted these shrubs here to hide and mask the roofs of the buildings opposite. And on the side, we also have the plants, as I mentioned earlier, to screen off the street-side neighbours. The idea of this front-facing house is to use a concrete shell, as I mentioned, to protect its occupants on three sides. But if it were just totally a shell, it would be quite dark. So we introduced a series of holes along the entire two walls of this building to let in light and give just enough screening of the neighbours. So actually, when you're inside, you can't really see on the sides. So we made the density of the holes just enough.
The swimming pool sits alongside the living area like part of the living room itself. Every day, life unfolds against a backdrop of the pool, greenery, and open sky. Framing it all are perforated concrete screens that filters light into ever-changing patterns, gently shading the whole. It's a quiet reminder that privacy doesn't have to come at the expense of openness.
We don't treat the pool as something separate from the house. When the doors are open, the pool, the terrace, and living room are one big grand space, inviting its occupants to move outdoors. What's unusual about the living room is that when you're here, all you just see is the sky, the trees behind you, and a totally unblocked view. But actually, when you're below, you're actually in a very urban estate. On the start of the road is actually a supermarket, but when you're here, actually, it's like you're in a totally different world. Yeah. And also, what's a bit unusual is that in this main space, you don't see any circulation. It is hidden behind that grey feature wall. When you're in here, actually, you just see one big grand space. It's a big span, so we also utilize post-tensioning structures to achieve it totally column-free.
Look up beyond the dry kitchen and there's another surprise. Framed by a cutout in the dry kitchen wall, a courtyard is tucked into the mezzanine, connected through interlocking volumes. This design makes the home feel taller and more layered. What I find most compelling is the balance. One side opens out to the city, while the other turns inwards. In a home like this, it's hard not to slow down.
This courtyard is the second double volume space in the home. It draws light and greenery into the center of the house and also connects the upper private levels, which are the bedrooms, to the main living space. In the courtyard, we planted a pair of sculptural Evertamia trees at different heights so that they can be appreciated both from the living room and the upper floors. So it's like a center piece of the house on the end of this big grand space. So in the front is greenery, on the back is greenery. So this central courtyard actually plays a very important part in cooling this house down. On this courtyard, actually what we've done is we covered it with a glass skylight, so rain does not come in. But on three sides, we actually have gaps of about 10-20 cm. So hot air naturally gets drawn through the courtyard. Even if there's no breeze, to side effect, the courtyard naturally keeps drawing hot air up to the building, keeping the house naturally cool. Okay, so because we have this great unblocked view, we wanted the materials to be very pared down and like a backdrop for life to unfold in this house. So we actually only have two main materials, which is timber board form concrete. For this, we actually also imprinted timber onto it with radiata pine. And then on the floor and ceiling here, we have Burmese teak. So another feature that we did is we continued the material both outside and inside the house, so that when, like here, you're in the terrace or you're in the living room, it just looks like one big space. We don't change the material between outside and inside. So the main space is in this very powerful material of concrete and timber, but at the back, we wanted a counterpoint like a jewel. So we cladded the courtyard and the staircase in silver travertine as a more domestic and homely material for the bedroom levels.
Throughout the house, the material palette is consistent with timber, off-form concrete, and travertine. There is no overload of materials here, and that's exactly the point. Each one is given enough room to breathe, to be noticed on its very own terms. I always say this on Design Seat. True luxury isn't about reaching for the most expensive finish. It's about having the confidence to let a material stand on its own. And this house demonstrates that beautifully. Tucked away behind the main living area, the kitchen offers a quieted moment within the home. Here, carefully framed views of greenery soften everyday routine. While the upper floors embrace the sky and surrounding greenery, the ground floor is dedicated to hosting and entertaining. In contrast to the rest of the home, the powder room takes a bolder, more expressive character. Glazed windows, separated by a narrow gap, allow fresh air to circulate continuously, naturally ventilating the space while maintaining privacy. Tucked away on this level is a private theatre, where floor-to-ceiling glazing looks out onto the landscape, making even a simple movie night feel unexpectedly serene. In fact, that's something you'll notice throughout the entire home. Almost every window is framed by a pocket of greenery, with planters thoughtfully positioned just beyond the glass. Rather than feeling surrounded by neighboring houses, the home feels immersed in nature.
For a fairly large plot, there will be bound to be rooms that will have to face the undesirable outward views. So even then, in every room, we have attempted to create a small pocket greenery view that you will see. Every room has like what we call a reverse bay window with planting to screen off the immediate neighbor.
At the heart of the home is a sculptural timber staircase. The warmth of the timber balances the surrounding concrete and stone, adding softness to the material palette. On the highest floor, the master bedroom embraces a quiet sense of retreat. The interior is deliberately minimal, allowing the surrounding greenery to become the true focal point of the spaces.
The front of the house is facing almost in a west direction. So to protect the living room, we actually, both for the western sun as well as for privacy, we have a deep overhang that you see here in timber to protect the living room from the western sun. And on the master bedroom level, we actually also introduced a timber screen. The master is positioned on the highest floor in this house. It looks to the front, but on its side, it's protected with a concrete screen and greenery with plants that grow out of it. So you're surrounded again by greenery in the front with a view and greenery on the sides. So likewise, this house is full of greenery in the front and the back. We also continue greenery into the master bathroom, so giving a feel like you're going into a resort villa.
Located on the mezzanine floor, the children's rooms are designed to feel open, flexible, and connected to nature. A lofty gable roof makes the room feel bright and surprisingly spacious. And despite the compact layout, no space goes to waste.
Yeah, so I think for us, nature is very much part of an element that we utilize and play with in our projects. So if we want to avoid an undesirable view, we could just put a blank wall, but then it'll be dark. If we put a window, there'll be light, but you'll see the undesirable view. So for us, a combination of landscape and architecture is a way to create this secondary skin between this building for our clients and the undesirable outward views.
After filming hundreds of homes around the world, people often ask us, what's the most beautiful house you've ever seen? But I think a better question is, what kind of life does this house encourage? Villa Urbano isn't memorable because of its size or its materials. It's memorable because it quietly challenges the way we think of landed housing. And that's what great design and architecture does. It reminds us that the way we shape our spaces often shapes the way we live. Sometimes all it takes is a different perspective to see what truly matters. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to learn more about interior design and architecture related contents, please click on the subscribe button to stay tuned for more compelling design and architecture related contents. My name is Alex Lee and I am from Design Seeds. Thank you for watching and I'll see you guys next week.